has finally come for me to go through another Pokemon guidebook. Last time I went through the Gold and Silver guide, and now here we have the Ruby and Sapphire official guide from Nintendo Power. This is my copy from childhood. I used to love flipping through this book, especially the section of Pokédex info. And I would just look at all the pictures. And now I can do that with you today. So, Ruby and Sapphire were the first Game Boy Advance Pokemon games. They came out in 2002 in Japan and 2003 everywhere else. This guidebook came out in 2003 as well. Groudon and Kyogre. My copy from when I was a kid was Sapphire. I preferred the look of Kyogre. So let's open this up. This opening page has the staff list for the guide and a map of the Hoenn region. I like the art style of this map. It's very cute. The official Nintendo Player's Guide. Here we have the table of contents, and I like the way that they've done this to where it coincides with the map. So as you go through, it's numbered on the map, so you can kind of see your path through the game. Or if you're like, where is this? Number 44. You can see its team's hideout. changes other than like your bag will look different whether you're a boy or a girl, and your rival will be different. If you choose to be a girl, your rival will be Brendan, a spirited boy who is interested in seeing you push yourself hard as a Pokemon trainer. And if you choose to play as a boy, your rival will be May, a spirited lass who will meet you often on your adventures. Then here we have Professor Birch. He's the one who gives you your first Pokemon. Here we have the villain teams, Team Magma and Team Aqua. Team Aqua is in Pokemon Sapphire, so they're the team that I know more closely. And Team Magma is in Ruby. I actually prefer the Magma team. I think their outfits are cooler, and Maxie is I think he's a cooler villain than Archie. Team Magma and its leader Maxie drive an insidious plot to increase the planet's landmass and thus create more land habitats for people and Pokemon alike. And Team Aqua and its leader Archie are plotting to raise sea levels, thus creating more water habitats for Pokemon across the planet. And the events that occur are pretty much the same, regardless of which villains you're up against, so it doesn't change a whole lot. And then here you have the gym leaders and Steven. We have Roxanne, Brawley, Flannery, Watson, Norman, Winona, Tate and Liza, and Wallace. Who is your favorite gym leader from this gen? Mine is Winona. I've always loved Winona. She's so cool, and I like Fortress City a lot too. This page is pretty boring. It just explains the controls. The controls are still pretty much the same. Pretty intuitive stuff, and nothing to talk about there, really. Then here it has the starters, Trico, Torchic, and Mudkip. And it talks about Pokemon types and type effectiveness. Which of these three starters did you pick? have Swift Swim, or it might have Rain Dish, but not both. Whereas Zigzagoon always has Pickup. Abilities were really a neat addition for a lot of reasons because it added a whole new layer of depth to the combat. It also gives you more reason to search for different Pokemon because you're having to catch multiple to try to get one with the ability that you want. And it gave you, the player, more feeling of your Pokemon being a little more unique. Because maybe you had a Lotad with Swift Swim, but your friend had one with Rain Dish. This says that not all abilities are like useful when you first look at them. Like you might not get the point of it at first. Like Manectric's Lightning Rod, but it does have a use for double battles. And then it says to go to page 156 for a list of all abilities. So here's all of the abilities. There weren't very many, obviously, back then. A lot more now. Alright. Another thing that they added in Gen 3 was natures. And this is another thing that adds to the competitive nature and also to your individual experience with your Pokemon. Because you might have had to use Lotad again. Maybe your Lotad was really fast because of its nature, but your friend's was like really defensive. Gives you a little bit more unique experience, encourages you to catch more. Just really another nice addition to Pokemon. They're not really explained, if I remember correctly. I don't think they're explained in the games. As a kid, I had no idea what it meant to see, calm nature. So I think that could have been explained a bit more. But otherwise it was a cool new addition to the game. Here's the different natures and a list here of the stats that they affect. And the natures are also listed back here. It's a little small, but there at the bottom here shows their effect. But it also affects the flavor of Pokeblocks that they like, which were used in the competitions that were added in Gen 3. It says that down here as well. Alright, this part talks about how to catch wild Pokemon. It also lists here the different types rock smash on rocks, surfing, using dive, and some special encounters like trainers. Got a cute little shroomish here. Tailo. Okay. This is another thing about increasing your catch rate with like status effects or preventing Pokemon from running away. Typical stuff. This page has some more just kind of general information about leveling up your Pokemon. This part explains the pros and cons of waiting to evolve. Like, they'll learn moves a lot later if they evolve earlier. Or in some cases, they might not learn it at all. Like if you want Torchic to know Flamethrower, you need to wait until level 43 because Combuskin doesn't learn it. This explains the old school switch training. With the experience share now, this isn't as needed, but this was a very popular way to level up your weaker Pokemon. You would put them in your first slot, so they would go out first in battle, and then before even any turns would happen, you would switch them with a much stronger Pokemon, and that first Pokemon out would get a lot of experience because they wax incense on a web effect to get a why not. And then this talks about passing on egg moves to the baby. It mentions that level up moves can be passed on from either parent. HMs or TMs can be passed on to the baby from the father. And the father can also pass on egg moves. Alright, Pokemon battling has the type chart here. It's a little bit less convenient in this guide than it was in the Gold and Silver guide. In that one, it was on the very back. I think it was the back page, so it was like here, making it really easy to find, and it was a lot larger than this, so it was really easy to read as well. This was before the physical special split, so that means that certain types are always going to be physical or special. Like fire is always special, and fighting is always physical. It wasn't dependent on the move, it was dependent on the type. And they fixed that in Gen 4, which was very needed, because there were Pokemon like Sneasel who are physical attackers, but both ice and dark are special. So it made Sneasel like really bad. Here's the different ways to learn moves: leveling up, TMs, HMs, and the move tutor. The different effects of moves, whether they damage, cause status effects, or reduce or increase stats. Here are some of the various effects. This is a reminder about held items, the effects that they can have. Then it talks about having to go all the way back to Mauville to get a new bike and then go back to where you were to use it. They fixed that in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I believe. I think you eventually get both bikes. But yeah, it's kind of fun. The two different kinds. And then these are the moves that have effects on the overworld. Cuts down trees. Dig works as an escape rope to exit caves. Dive goes to the seafloor. Flash illuminates caves. Fly goes to cities. Rock smash breaks rocks. Secret power opens secret bases. Strength pushes boulders. Surf, you can traverse the water. Sweet scent instantly begins a wild Pokemon battle. Teleport warps you to the last Pokemon Center that you visited. And Waterfall allows you to ride up waterfalls. Most of these were returning moves. Although Smash was previously not an HM, but it was made into an HM for this game. And Dive is a completely new move and new HM for Gen 3. Okay, next we have the PokéNav. It's the Pokemon Navigator. These sorts of like special Pokemon devices that you would get used to be more of a thing, more of a feature in the older games. Now, you don't really get something like this. But this game had PokéNav, and then Gen 2 had the Pokégear. Gen 4 had the Pokétch. I think there was one in Gen 5. And I can't remember the name. I'm not sure when they stopped doing these sorts of things. Was it Gen 5? Maybe. But yeah, it was just kind of like a device that housed all of your like extra apps kind of thing. So I had the map, and I think these like improvements of being able to see the towns and points of interest, I'm pretty sure those were new to Gen 3. You could also use the PokéNav to look at your Pokemon's condition, which these are the stats used in Pokemon contests. Trainer's Eyes. This was a nice feature. It's similar to registering people's phone numbers in Gen 2 on the Pokégear, but most of the trainers you battle get registered in here automatically. You can click on them and it shows you like the route and their battle strategy, which was kind of neat, and it would also let you know if they wanted to battle you again. And it says that they are tougher than your previous battle when you rebattle them. And this kind of rebattling trainers mechanic is basically gone now, which is a shame because I thought it was kind of fun. I'm not sure why they got rid of it, but it basically was gone in Gen 7. There was still like a hint of it left, but after that, Gens 8 and 9, there's no feature like this. Alright. These are unless I just completely missed that as a feature. But it'd be really cool if you could just fly directly to your base, because some of them are in like inconvenient locations. So even though like this is kind of a cool spot, getting back there was a hassle, so I would never have chosen that for my location. But if I could fly there, that'd be cool. Alright, moving on to Pokemon contests. These were a new thing as well, and they kind of kept it in Gen 4, although they changed it pretty considerably. And I don't think that they have ever returned, other than in the remake games. But contests were neat because it gave you like a whole other objective outside of the battling, which would make sense in the world of Pokemon. You know, not everyone wants to be a trainer and go for the Pokemon League. Pokemon contests were also featured in the anime a decent amount. I think that's like what May's goal was, wasn't it? To be like a contest master. And I don't think I ever reached master rank. I always said I would, but I never actually bothered to follow through on that. But despite that, I do think these are really neat. And I'd like to see them return, maybe with some quality of life improvements. And I think they could even like completely flesh out the contest idea and make it its own spin-off game. I doubt that would ever happen, but it could be neat, maybe. But there were all these different categories: cool, beauty, cute, smart, and tough. And the different ranks: normal, super, hyper, and master. using